All right, everybody, welcome to another dev stream. Today we're going to be talking about jump. I'm going to kind of go back over the jump stuff that we learned and more jumpy jump stuff, and we're going to be looking at double jumps. And I'm just kind of going to go through a bunch of stuff with you all today. I learned a ton, and it's going to be fun. Before we get going, I just want a quick shout out and thank you to Darwin Berry and I think it was Sebastian. Thank you for supporting the channel through Patreon. Super appreciate it. Not gonna belabor this. Let's just get going. We're gonna hop straight into Unreal. I'm actually super excited because we're making tons of progress with the schedules and everything. So actually I can show you that real quick. I actually have like let me get this out of the way for y'all. I actually have a legit schedule that I'm gonna be sharing with you all in an upcoming devlog. Look at this. This is nuts. We have foundations and finding the fun and all the stuff. I'm kind of going through tasks. I gotta say, in hindsight, probably should have done this a long time ago. I feel like I'm actually making legit progress now, which is cool. And today on the schedule is jumpy jumps. So we kind of have a bunch to talk about. And as always, this is an open conversation, y'all. So people hop in Patreon, we have a conversation. The only thing to know is that it is actually recorded, and legally we got to tell you that, I think, in the state of California. So the last dev stream we did dash downs and we did jumps, and we died epically on jumps. I cut that stream. We stumbled around through it. Oh, actually nobody was here, so thankfully I wasn't wasting anybody's time. But after about 20 minutes of successful double dash down, I'll show you here in a second, we spent the next hour dying miserable deaths on jumps because a bunch of things. So let's talk about those. So first off, the problem we were having, let me open it up for you all and I'll show you. Let's see here, 2D Hero Pond. We were having input problems, gameplay ability system problems. We were having double input problems, all kinds of stuff. So first things first, down here in jump, what was happening was when we were activating our jump ability, we were not getting, and let me bring up my jump ability for you all to see. There is, I don't know if it's a bug or the way the Lyra code base was written, but what was happening was we were never triggering end ability. It didn't matter. If the jump was successful, even though we were ending it, basically when we were ending it here, it never triggered end ability. Didn't matter. So after a bunch of debugging and everything like that, I ended up going with forcing a new event. So we basically now have a release. So basically you press the start, it starts, you let go, and it sends the release event to the gameplay ability system. The reason this is important is because what I was trying to do was I was trying to make it so a single jump was not a problem, y'all, okay? But what I was trying to make it was so that you could jump different amounts depending on how long you held down the space bar or the jump button. So in this case, if you want to do a little hop, it's just a quick little tap. And if you want to jump really high, you hold it and go. Now, and that gives me things like some of the rhythm stuff we were talking about. So we can do quick little hops over these gaps, and then we can do big jumps over, large spaces. We also did a bunch of stuff to clean up our tree climbs. So our tree climb jumping is now the same height as our regular jumping. It's crazy, which is cool. And I think there's a couple of things worth sharing in there. So where to start? Let's start with the dilemma. Okay, let me bring up Photoshop so I can draw for y'all, so you can see the challenge that I was facing.
Just a quick question. You had like a stream last Wednesday, and you had another one
Saturday
halfway
night.
through, like Saturday night. All right.
Yep.
I missed that one.
Yeah, I'm gonna try to stream twice a week now. Usually this slot, like consistent, keep this. And then I will try to either do a Friday or Saturday night late slot so that people in different time zones can hop in and stuff like that. So let's go to new.
Don't know if I got a warning or a notification for this one.
For this
Is it something that you do? For this one, I did get one, but for the one on Saturday, I don't think I got.
Oh, I posted it in Discord.
All right, okay, that makes sense.
Wait, I may have even sent it to. I'll double check, make sure. But yes, the goal is to try to stream at least twice a week, just so you all can ask questions, be involved, etc. And like I said last time, if you all think that there is a better use of the time in your Patreon, if there's things that you would rather see as being part of Patreon and stuff like that, please let me know, because I want to make sure we're bringing value. Another thing that's at least worth noting is that's actually a little loud even for me. There we go. I consider you all have already bought this game, so if we ever ship this game, y'all are getting free copies, man. Like this is like zero doubt about that. Free copies, everything unlocked, all the skins, whatever this ends up being. Like, nice. Y'all, thank you for supporting this. This is really cool of you. All right, so let's talk about jump. Here's the problem with jump. Originally, your character's running along, okay, and then right here, you press the jump button. All right, if you're doing one jump, it's pretty clear. Super smooth, very responsive, nice arc. However, the dilemma or the problem comes in if you want to change how high this jump can go. So what I mean by that is, let's say that you're running along, okay, and you decide you wanted to do a big jump. How do you decide, how do you get the big jump? I'm going to just draw it over the top here. How do we get a big jump that looks like this? With basically using the keyboard input we have, okay? So right now, this is where you tap spacebar, okay? Okay, and this one, you've got to hold spacebar or some other thing in order to increase the jump. Now, you could do, there's a bunch of different options that we have. For example, let's just break down a bunch of options. Let's brainstorm a bunch of options together, okay? We could do 2 jumps. Only 2 jumps for the game. Or it's basics. 1 jump for the game. There's only 1 jump. There's only ever 1 jump. Okay? And that is spacebar. Super simple, easy to do. Okay? Or if we want to be able to provide more than 1 jump, now we have to start getting creative. So one option would be 2 jumps. The lower arc would be on a tap, and the longer one would be on hold. And you could make this the threshold. There would be basically a threshold for this. So it would be pretty intuitive from a player standpoint, and it would be pretty easy to kind of sort out. All right, cool. Now let's talk about the other option, which is depending on, like, you come up to this line, this is where you tap the spacebar. That's the tap. Okay, as you're running up to this line, somewhere back here, you pre-plan to hold the spacebar, right? You hold it. And then you continue to hold it, and then as you hold it, it triggers, a higher jump. However, the problem with the hold version of it is responsiveness. It doesn't feel as crisp. It doesn't feel as responsive to the player. Now, I know that as people, when we go to jump a really big gap, we just use more muscle at the time. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about dealing with this tap. So one method is we can use let's take this from 2 fronts. We can basically use on hold. So let's talk about the hold problem. Actually, let's talk about the release. So there's hold. We have hold that we could do, or we have release. My writing is awful, I know. Or we have release. If we hold, we have to pre-plan our jump, right? We were going to pre-plan, and hold before we get to the edge. It doesn't always feel intuitive, but it is an option. On release, what happens is this is potentially a problem, because when you tap things can start to get floaty for a couple different reasons as you go. But it is a little bit more intuitive in the sense that you press and you're holding, and then when you release, that's going to determine this jump height. But it gets a little bit difficult to figure out. So the hold option is actually, wait, did I say that backwards? Hold on a second. The hold option you're pre-planning, and then it's going to launch up. The release option starts to feel floaty, and is that the one? Hold on, I just confused myself, y'all. Okay, so okay, so as you're holding this, oh, I have these backwards. Let's change this. And what is with this brush, man? Also, let's just do.
Could you give like examples of games that use either methods so that?
Yeah, I can. Okay, so let's try this again. Okay, so all right, so recap. What we're trying to do is we're trying to give the player agency to determine jump height or distance, either one. Okay, one option we can do is we can expect of the player to hold the button for a certain amount of time before the jump. And basically what you're doing is that's basically on, the easiest way to think about that is that's on press, right? So that's on press is one way to think about this. And this one is going to be on release. All right. Now, these two have two different issues with them. So if we go with, God dang, this is the worst tool for, okay. So if we use press, as you're running up to the edge, you have to press and hold. And as you pre-plan your jump, and it doesn't necessarily feel super intuitive because you don't know how far in advance you have to press the button and hold it, versus if you just get to the edge and you press it, and when you release it, that's going to determine your jump height. So these are our two scenarios. Okay, the press is probably most games where when you press the button, you get a quick jump right away. Like a lot of your, Halos, Gears of War, things like that. The release version of it, these are things more like, not platformers. Oh my God, I just blanked on the name of the fighting game. It's a platform fighting game with, you can jump off the edge. Smash Brothers type stuff. Yeah, Super Smash Brothers, right? And based on how long you're holding, these jumps can start to get released. So if we break these down, what happens is, if you, for the press version of it, you run up, this is this red one where you're coming up, you press and you hold, and then depending on how long you're pressing and holding, that will determine your jump height. Okay? Little potentially counterintuitive to your players. It's something that you would have to test out. The release version of it is almost weird in a different way, in the sense that when you get to the edge, you jump, and you don't know how much force to put on the jump until you release. So if we take the release version of it, this is the one that I was trying to do, okay? And we have, we have our edge right here, okay? When we hit this, I'm gonna draw this with two different colors because, okay? When we hit this edge, what we're gonna do is we're gonna trigger our initial jump. I'm gonna draw this as a vector. Let's just say that this is 600. That's how much power we're going to put into our initial jump. We need that because we want the player to feel the jump right away. We want them to, we want it to feel responsive. But then the problem is, for the rest of this, we don't know how much power until the release happens, right? Okay, so let's just say that the release is, and there's also the human factor, okay? This initial press, I've been doing some testing. The fastest that I can get the keyboard to press and release is like 0.05, I think it is. Let's call this duration 0.05 seconds. Okay? Now, a feel good press and hold to get max height up here, let's call this 0.4 seconds. Okay? This is the input. This is the input. Right? This is how long the player is holding the keyboard or doing a quick tap. Now, here's the problem. Physics is real. So depending on your gain, let's just say this max height jump here, let's say from here to here is going to be a total of 1800. Okay? Now, these values depend on what your gravity scale is. So your gravity scale and the gravity for your game. Okay? So depending on your gravity scale and your gravity for your game, the actual peak here is determined by the whole like equation for whatever. And at these numbers, I believe 18 or 1400, the actual time for this character to get to the peak of this is like, let's just call it for argument's sake, 0.05. I'm going to go with 0.05. Okay, so from the time the character jumps to the peak of the arc and back down is 0.05. Here's the problem. You can see the disconnect. If the player gets to 0.05 seconds is the peak of the jump, but you're holding for 0.4 seconds, there's a massive disconnect between what looks good and what feels good from a player input standpoint. Okay? That doesn't even address, if we create a new layer, that doesn't even address the issue where as you're running to this edge, okay, you get your first jump. We get our first jump, okay? And let's just say that our first jump would be an arc like this, okay? But then when we release, we're gonna put in more power. All right, but we release, let's just say we're this good and we could release right here. The problem is when we add the extra power to the jump, this is what the arc ends up looking like. And what you get is you get what feels like a double jump, not a single jump that is one smooth arc. So the responsiveness versus the actual output is a massive undertaking. And it's not just with jumps. It's with any ability where you're giving your player a gradient of input. Like the difference between a tap and a hold, a tap and a double tap, these types of things are going to be a problem. So what ends up happening is, even though this is only one jump, from a player perspective, this is going to look like a double jump. All right. So now you start playing games with, okay, we don't want the jump to happen at the peak. What we could do is maybe back it up and this extra amount comes back here to try to smooth this out. And you're starting to play crazy games with physics. Okay. This difference, remember, this is 0.05, but you're holding for 0.4. And this value here is 0.0, it's like some stupid number, 0.001, for example. And your ability to juggle these numbers and make this feel good is crazy. So this is when you're doing the hold and release problem. If you're doing the press, you don't have to deal with this. You just have to deal with the fact that the player is running up to here and they have to know how far in advance and time the distance. Like if they want a short jump, maybe they press the space bar here. If they want a long jump, they have to press and hold it from back here. And they have to get comfortable or learn the timing of holding, like how long to hold the space bar or the jump key before they get to the edge, as an example. Okay? So this is what I have been trying to tackle to make feel good. So let's see how we did. I know that was super long-winded. I'm sorry, y'all. Okay, so here's what we got. If you can see, like I'm going to stand next to this wall so you can see. If I just do a quick tap, we get about a 1 square jump. If I hold, you can see I get a 3 square jump. If I do something in between, I can get somewhere between a 1.5 or 3 square jump. And this is all being done. I ultimately decided not to do the press and hold, I decided to go with release. The reason being is what I did was, here, I'll show you what I ended up doing. Inside, okay, so inside this jump, this is no longer the jump I'm using. Originally what I did was when we got the stat tag, when we got the event, this is basically player triggers jump, we come in here, we're waiting for the gameplay event. What we do right away, right after the gameplay event, is we trigger our launch. And the launch is the pre-jump. This is the scenario where I was talking about where we were trying to line up those two arcs so it didn't feel like a double jump. All right, so this does the pre-jump. Then we get into it and we basically do our jump. Okay, then after we get the release, this is what this is waiting for, jump release. We basically then go through, and this is where we add in, this is all of the calculation to get the game time in seconds, minus the jump press start time, divided by the total jump hold time. We're remapping that, and then we're lerping between them, and then we're going through, and then we're adding that to our Z velocity. So let's just see if we bring this jump back, what this feels like. So if we go back to, so just to keep in mind, quick tap, hold and tap 4 high, and if we're running, look at my arc. Smooth arc, even on a full hold, okay? Smooth arcs all the time. That's what we have right now. Let's go back to what we had before. So inside of our game, Zephyr, not input data, that's not the one I wanted. I want hero ability set. Let's change back to jump. Where is it? One of these is jump. 2D dash. Jump cancel. Their lights are so bright I can't see it. Okay, here we go. Jump release. This is the one we want. Let's change this to jump. Okay, so we're going back to jump instead. So now let's see what this looks like. Quick tap. Oh God, it doesn't even. Oh, I got the tuning wrong. But you can see it. If I hold, watch the double jump. You see the little double pop? Yeah. And that is because we're trying to line up those two arcs. So I ultimately decided to cut bait on this version of it, where I was doing a pre-jump and then trying to figure out the math so that these arcs lined up. Like, holy hell, dude. Eventually what I ended up with is realizing that the difference between basically 0.1 and I think my current hold time is, if we go back to the abilities and we look at our release jump. Oh, no, it's on the pawn. So on the pawn with our max hold time, max jump. So our current jump max hold time is 0.3. So if we make this, let's just go 0.7. Let's just see something. 0.7. Does this get even crazier? Yeah, you can see that the double jump's happening. And it can't even process this. Okay? So if we go back to our new jump though, and we change this to our jump release, jump on release, I created a new ability instead so I could test and swap them. Okay, so now we have our 0.7. If I hold for 0.7, you'll see I get one big jump. But look at the windup. You see how long the windup happens? Look at how long I'm running on the ground before it jumps. 0.7 seconds. If I hold and don't let go. If I'm running and I let go, it still works. But the difference is now to get I am now trying to, you can think of it as like the difference between 0 and 0.7 seconds. That's going to map between min height and max height. So basically, if I can hold it for 0.35 seconds, I will get a half height jump. If I hold it for 0.7 seconds, I get a full height jump. And what I've realized was that by going with 0.3, 0.3 is so fast, but not, it's fast enough that even though you're holding, it still feels pretty responsive, and it's slow enough that you still get some control over your jump height. One other thing that is worth mentioning as far as like brainstorming ideas on how to potentially solve this. So you have press, you have release, you have 2 jumps, you have single jumps. One other crazy idea I had was 2 inputs. So imagine when you come running up to the edge, what you do, and I think this would potentially be a player nightmare. You'd have to test it. But when you get to the edge and you go to trigger this jump, you need 2 things. You need the press, but imagine at the same time, if you're looking at your gamepad, right? This is your jump buttons are, you know, over here, right? Imagine you push your jump, and at the same time you press your jump, you've got your thumbstick, okay? And your thumbstick, depending on how far you push it one way or the other, that's going to give you a strength to launch. So when you go to jump, if you used your thumbstick max tilt, you could get a big jump. And if you used it semi-small tilt, you could get a smaller jump, etc. So the only other, not the only way, one other way that I thought of solving this was doing this. However, this creates a different problem. The problem being, it's potentially a lot to ask of players to be able to, just for the headspace, like I want the game to be fun to play, not like you're doing Vulcan death grips to get all the abilities and everything to trigger. So I think this could totally work. And I think it could work really well, but it does do another thing. If you're playing a game where you need this, like we wouldn't be able to use this stick for targeting anymore, right? If this stick is movement, we won't be able to use this for targeting. It's not going to work anymore. The other thing about it was, there was one other concern I had about it. But anyways, point is, I think the complexity of this would be tough, but it is a cool way to potentially think about how high the jump is going to be at the time you go to jump. I think there's also a thing depending, like, oh, I remember the other issue. What do you do with keyboard mouse? You don't have thumbsticks. So if you're going to do this, you have now potentially eliminated a player base that only has a computer. If you're only launching a Switch, you're only launching a console, maybe this would work. Maybe there's some other cool workarounds. But anyways, I have been on a journey with Jump, and that is kind of where my head has been and where we ultimately landed. And these are the reasons why Jump kind of went crazy in the last stream. The biggest reason, though, the reason we couldn't even make forward progress with it was because the completed was not being triggered as a result of our gameplay ability system, and I had to add in a jump release event that now the jump is actually waiting for, which you can see in here. Now today, what a recap, right? Today we're going to do double jumps, y'all. Okay, and there's a couple things about double jumps that I want to do. Oh, the other thing that I did is I rebuilt wall grabs. Added a completely different movement mode for the, so, you know, flying, running, walking, swimming, etc. I added grab. Initial knee-jerk reaction is I don't like custom movement modes because you have to do custom stuff in there. What I mean by that is, like, let's see here, let me see if I can show you. Stat tags. Nope. Somewhere in here I've got a wall grab. Am I in the right one? Yeah.
So while you're looking for this, I just want to add something on the using the stick for the jump height. I think it would make more sense to use up and down rather than left or right, because if you're using the stick to move right and you're asking the player to gauge on the left to make a shorter jump, I would throw my controller at the screen because it's just not possible to keep up. But if you have like a way to measure how high compared to the, like whether it's up and down while maintaining right on the stick, like let's say you have a 45-degree angle up, then you know that the player is going to try to get like something that's mid-range, whereas if he's trying to go like full send on the way up, then he wants like a whole long jump. And if you want a small shorter jump, you can like go right down in a way. That's something that I can envision uh, be possible, I guess, in
Yeah.
from a player point of view.
And I agree 100%. I would expect up and down to determine how high the jump is. I just couldn't draw in a z-axis which way, like I couldn't draw this switch to be like, it's really hard to draw in that perspective to make it. But yes, 100% I would agree. If this is your movement, this side's your movement, this would be up and down. I would expect to be the jump height, right? If you were going to implement something like that. 100% agree.
Yeah.
All right, well, I can't find it right now, but point is I made a new movement set for grab, and the thing that's weird about it is it requires a custom thing that gets a custom enum, and maybe it's in my paper here. Let me see if I can find it in here. So I don't know if you all have seen this lately, but this is the state machine for animation. And before we can go into wall grab, we're using the hero component to check for in wall grab. And what we're doing is inside of here, overlapping actors has the stat tag true. Yeah, here we go. We have to set the movement mode to this new custom movement mode, and it takes a little enum for wall grab. However, when you go to check it, it basically returns custom. It's weird. Anyways, the point is you can't check the movement mode based on the enum. You have to check the movement mode based on this function that I created called isInWallGrab that I did in code. So it's kind of, I don't know, it feels a little clunky, but whatever. So back to what we were doing today. After all of that, did you all have any questions about like that crazy journey I went on with jump? It doesn't just apply to jump though. It applies to anything where you want to give the player variable power, variable strength, variable speed, whatever it is. You are going to face a battle of a trade-off between responsiveness and stuff. And a lot of times really good animators, teams, not just teams, a combination of animation, design, etc., can work together to make it so that, for example, if you did decide you wanted to do the long run up, the animator could do like a big massive anticipation where they make maybe the character stumbles before the takeoff to kind of cover up that press so it still looks good. There's still going to be the question of, does it feel responsive? And it could just be a case of whether or not the player is playing. So, but anyways, did you all have any questions before we rolled?
Yeah, how do you come up with the math? How do you decide which path to take to actually get onto this? Do you like have to reopen your high school math textbook, or how do you? What's the best way to approach this type of problems?
Combination of things. I actually, yes, you have to kind of reopen your high school textbook, but even better is you ask AI. So here, let's do this real quick.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let me see where do I have AI open right now? I don't see it actually. I don't have AI open right now. Okay, but basically all you do is, maybe I can open it real quick. Basically, if all you do is you tell it, hey, I'm working in Unreal. I have gravity of 3.5 and effective gravity at negative 3,450. I'm trying to figure out where the apex of the jump is. You can effectively, it'll help you out with the formulas. Let's see here. I may even have it in my history. But it'll basically tell you need to multiply by a certain amount. Let's see. So I don't even have to look up the formulas. But basically, once I found what the time was, let's see. -1. Okay, well, let's just ask it. Okay. Can you remind me the math to calculate the apex on the jump hold, where I have gravity, gravity scale, gravity, time of press, and time of release, for example. And it's something like you multiply the two together, get the effective gravity, and then divide by the hold time. Yeah, so hold time is time release minus time press, and then it basically, yeah, this is it's awesome. This is the equivalent to me of having a graphing calculator, where you know, you don't have to remember all the formulas. I know that at any point I can go and do this. Now, that said, so, you know, here's your calculation of the time to apex, and then once you have that. Now, that said, there is a cool node. Give me 1 second to remember where it is. Wait for velocity change. This is the one. So, in the case where we launch the character, why am I waiting for this velocity change? I'm waiting, what this does is, if I wait, like let's say the character's in an arc, what happens is the minute the velocity changes to a negative z direction, in other words, it's going down with a minimum magnitude of 0.1, it's going to trigger this branch right here. Okay, so I'm not even doing the math anymore. I'm just checking to see if the character's falling down. If the character's falling down, then what I do is I do a quick check to see if I'm overlapping anything climbable. And then if I am, then I will do a wall grab now. So I also completely changed the way wall grab works while we're in here. So wall grab used to be all this tick stuff. So every single tick, the game was checking to see if we were overlapping with climbable objects. We don't do that anymore. I got rid of it. So now we basically check on overlap begin, on low overlap end, and on velocity change heading down. And that allows us to do things that I wanted to be able to do, like I can drop down now. And I can drop down when I'm inside a tree as well. If I'm inside a tree, I can press and drop down. We did, you guys weren't, I don't think, yeah, nobody was here for this one, but if we jump and we do a double tap, I can smash down. Sweet. So, and the smash down, and we can also still drop down. So if we drop down, we can. And then the other thing that has done is now we can do things like, if I drop down, I can also jump still.
But just the once.
Well, that's what we're doing now. After 30 minutes of like just pure garbage, we're gonna do we're gonna do our double jumps now. Okay, so the way this works, the way I've planned this to happen was every time the character jumps, they get a stack tag count of a jump. Okay, so right now I have it set to 0. This should be determined based on your ability power. This is a progression thing. My thinking is as the game progresses, you will eventually get double and triple jumps. I don't know if we're going to go beyond triple. I mean, if you get beyond triple, it might get a little bit nuts. But if all we do, so basically if the jump stack count is greater than your total number, in this case, then we'll go ahead and end the ability. So in other words, the first time it comes in here, we don't have any jump stacks. So this is false and it does all the jumpy jumps. Okay. If we come in, if we simply change this number to 1, now I should be able to double jump, but there's a problem with it. So now I can double jump. Okay. So let's talk about the problem. So I can definitely double jump now. Now, just for fun, let's go nuts. Let's try like a quintuple jump. Like, does this work? This should work. Yep. So I can do like quintuple jumps, which almost feels like flying, right? It's that easy. However, nothing's ever easy, right? There's a problem. Let's go back down to 1. I'm going to show you what the problem is. and what I'm thinking we're gonna do about this. Okay, so if I double jump, and let's say I want to do a max double jump. So what I'm gonna do is, you know what, let's do a couple things here. Let's take these objectives and get them out of the way so that it's easier to see what we're doing. Now we can never finish our game. And actually, no, let's do this. Let's also do this. That way we have more runway. Okay, so if I go to do a max jump, I'm basically gonna press and hold and then press again. Okay, did you see how the character, if the character basically goes in an arc? Let's go back to our drawing board real quick. Yeah, that's fine. All right, so what I'm looking at is the character. What happens is we press and hold, and remember our press time is 0.3 seconds. So we hold for 0.3 seconds. So right here, we hit our jump, and then at 0.3, so we start our jump, and then, or actually, let me rephrase that. We press the button here, and then 0.3 seconds later, this is where the full max jump happens. So we start our full max jump, and let's just say that this is a full max jump. Okay, now what happens is somewhere near the apex, I'm like, I want to do another full max jump. Here's the problem. By the time I press the button and hold it for 0.3 seconds, my full max jump is going to start here. So what's going to happen is this full max jump is actually going to be starting from somewhere down here on the curve. So I'm exaggerating this in this drawing, but if you watch, see if you can see it. Full max jump, full max jump, full max jump. It's almost all the way back down to the bottom. Full max jump. But if I do a full max jump and a tap, it's right away. See the difference? And the problem is, once again, the responsiveness of this. It is almost impossible when the total jump time... Am I still printing things? Actually, let's print it just so you all can see it. If we go to our release and we come down here, hold time, start time, game time in seconds. This is what I want to print. Let's print this. We're going to print this, runtime minus this, so we can see it. And let's make it 5 seconds so we can see it. All right, and then when we press play, if I press and hold space, oh wait, there's one other place that I have to print it. Hold on one second. It's over here. Okay, now it'll print. Actually, we should make that. I'm gonna make this a different one so you can see the difference. This is 2 different loops. This is the max time so that you can see the difference. All right, so if I press and hold, you can see 0.3 seconds. That's the game time delta, okay? So if I do that and then I do it again, you can see I'm hitting 0.3 seconds each time. So if I go and I try to do, whereas if I do a short one, you can see 0.09. Fastest I can get is 0.05. So if I go and I max hold and then tap again, you'll see I get a 0.3 and a 0.1. And the problem is the entire duration before I hit the ground is too long for me to be able to get a max jump on top of it. There isn't a great way around this. And so what I'm thinking is we are not going to deal with this. Actually, I did remember one other thing I wanted to point out back here in this scenarios. The other thing you can do in this, by the way, is you can make it here that this point, let's say this point happens at 0.05. Okay, what you can do is you can change gravity. This is what a lot of the games like Super Smash Brothers and stuff like that do. What you do is when you first take off, if we change gravity, let's say that gravity was 4 and we were hitting or let's say it was 5 and we were hitting 0.05. If we change gravity scale down to 1, we now have 5 times as long. And so now this point would happen at 0.25, right? So we could change gravity, but then that's why you start getting the floaty feeling. Okay, so in this case, we could, for a double jump, change gravity. I'm not going to do that. So I think that would be, I don't think that would feel really good. So here's what my plan is. What we're going to do is when we jump, I am going to say a double jump or a triple jump. Every one is equal. So if you do a max hold jump and then you trigger a double jump, it's 2 max hold jumps. This is my thinking, at least. So if you do a half height jump and you double trigger it, you get another half height jump. So you can do 2 small ones, 2 big ones, etc. And I'm thinking that will feel better than not being able to double jump at all. Okay, so in order to do that, here's what we need to do. Right now we have our double jumps working. We're back to where we were. When we come in, what we need to do is we need to track. Is it the whole time we want to track? No, we just want to track jump hold time, I think. So let's create a new variable. This is going to be last jump hold time. Okay. And then what we're going to do is whenever we launch our character, we're going to set this. Set. Set the last jump hold time. And we're going to set the last jump hold time to be whatever the result was of, let's see here. Yeah, it's not really the time. We're going to change the name of this in a second. So this is the time minus divided by the max hold time. So this should just be the last jump. Last jump power. Okay? Because that's what gets plugged into our map range and into our final launch. Okay, so we need to do the same thing down here. We're going to set this equal to this value. Okay, so now that we have our power stored, what I'm thinking, this is what I wanted to try today, is if this is, so when we come in here, if this is false, we can do our stat tag, we can do all of this stuff. This is all the same, that's fine. Okay, and then what we're going to do is, let's take this all. Oh my goodness, this is going to be single jump. And we're going to put an if in here. So where's that number? If this is greater than 0, if that's true, we're going to do a special jump. Let me move this back down now that I've moved it up. Make room. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're not even going to wait for the gameplay event. We don't need to. I don't think. and as a result of that, we're not going to have a timer, we're not going to have a handle, we're not going to have any of these things. We're not going to worry about minimum launches. We're not going to worry about, all we're going to do is launch our character. So I think all we need to do is take all of this and copy it. And this is going to be our multi-jump. So if that's true, we're literally going to launch our character, and the value that we're going to use, rather than all this time in seconds divided by etc. la-di-da-di-da, is we are going to connect our last jump power. Okay, and that is going to do our lookup. That's going to give us the same launch velocity as when we launch our character, and so on. And then what do we need to do afterwards? We still want to do this wait for velocity stuff. We may want to make this a function that we do every time, reset the stack count, but for now let's just go ahead and copy this and we'll paste it up here. Okay, and then is that what we did down here? Branch. Actually, I think I want this one instead. Let's do this one instead. If we're not in a wall grab, then we're going to check climbable, and yeah, let's just see if this works. Compile and save. All right, so the idea here is now, if I do a full jump, that still works. Oh, wait a minute, that was too fast. Hold on. Actually it worked. It's doing a full height jump. Except the problem is it is only doing full height jumps. So I think it's taking greater than 1, I believe, is what we want here. Not, let's try that again. Or actually, let's see here. Okay, so we have our little hops. That's good. So if we do a full height jump, yep. Okay, cool. Now if we do a half height jump, yeah, dude, that totally works. So we have double little jumps, and we have double max full height jumps, which is cool. I think this feels better than when the character, basically, actually now I can show you what it felt like before. If I did a max full height jump before, it was adding the second jump at the bottom of that max curve, right here. And there was nothing I could do about it. Whereas now I can choose when that's gonna happen. If I go full jump, I can do it at the peak, which I couldn't do before. And I feel like this feels pretty good.
Well, just as an FYI, I've reopened Hollow Knight for the first time in 2 years. And that's pretty much how the game feels. Like the jumps is a little bit slower, but you can do a double jump at the apex of jump, just like you're trying to do.
You can or cannot?
You can. The character dips down a little bit, but like the character just jumps immediately if you start to jump. Like I don't know if you've ever played Hollow Knight.
I have, yeah. It's been a long time though.
Yeah. I guess I can share my screen if you want to have a reminder of what it looks like.
Yeah, no, I have it on my Switch. I do it just for like copyright stuff and everything like that. I just
yeah, no, fair enough.
We won't do that, or we'll do that after we finish the stream for today. But overall I feel like this feels pretty. I wonder if double jump works off of ledges. Does it? There's something sticky about when we're in trees now that we're gonna have to figure out. So if we go down, jump, jump. Oh, it does. Oh, dude, that's pretty cool.
Yeah, nice.
I feel like this works, y'all. Look at that. Oh, that didn't work. So, man, I think that might actually wrap up our jump journey.
Neat.
changed our dash slightly, so it's not quite as crazy. I'm trying to think about what else. So if we take a look at our handy dandy roadmap, go ahead.
Can you jump, dash, double jump?
Oh, that's a really good question. I don't know.
Oh yeah.
Okay, so jump, dash. Yes, I'll do.
and then can you double jump and then dash?
Oh yeah, that you can definitely do.
Cool.
That one I was confident. I didn't know about the jump, dash, double jump.
I mean, even with just what you have here, you could make all sorts of really cool movement puzzles. And then later on, if you want to do, like.
And that's the goal.
Drop down mid, jump, dash, drop down, dash,
yep.
jump.
So the first playtest I want to do with you all is a movement playtest, and I'm making it. In fact, we're gonna be doing it. That's as soon as I can get this stuff working. That's what the live stream is gonna be. I'm gonna be building this movement playtest puzzle. And the puzzle's going to have checkpoints, ties into our objective system, which is pretty cool. And basically, I am going to set it up so that anybody can playtest that wants to, and there's going to be a timer, and who can get through it the fastest. Like, what is the record time? That's what I'm thinking, and the whole goal is to test movement and get feedback on movement. What do you all think about it? That is my goal. That is my short-term goal right now.
Sounds good to me. Would love to try that game, actually.
Nice.
I also have to do some work for controllers too. So, oh, you can do a downward hit too. So we can go jump, dash, down, bam, slam. The down slam feels weird to me right now from this perspective. If you it accelerates at the beginning and slows down at the end. And I want it to do the opposite. I think that's going to be our next challenge. And it's subtle, but maybe you all can see it. So if we go, see how it's like it accelerates at the beginning and slows at the end? I kind of want to change that. That's going to be tricky. I'm going to have to figure that out. But with that, let's check off double jump, shall we? So in our movement set, so crouch, I kind of crossed off. We have crouch, just as far as what we've got, but the crouch really is only about passing through. It's just a brief thing that you pass through to get through platforms. At this size of game, the idea of crouching to get through things, I don't know if I need that. So for now, I'm cutting crouch. It's in the form of having a crouch mode and a movement mode where you can crouch. I think adding that would be reasonably straightforward at a later date. So that pretty much leaves fly glide, which for this character, because I have 5 characters I think I'm going for right now. Actually 5 races of characters. Minimum 3 different types of movements. So, we have dashes, we have smashes, we have teleportation type stuff. I don't know if we're going to do fly glide. We'll see. Let me think. Is there anything else worth pointing out for you all while we're here? Jump, wind up, wall grabs. No, I think I know there was a lot of talking at the beginning of this, but I learned so much about and the thing is, I see these, I'm part of these conversations at work all the time, where I see them where design is working to figure out, design's working to figure out how to deal with a tap versus, hold, and the responsiveness for players, and not feeling stuck and all those kinds of things. And there was something about this specific thing with this jump and the give and take there that made all of that just 100% solid in my mind. You know, the other option is we do have the double tap, which we're using currently for jump down. You could also set up 3 jumps effectively. You could do a double tap jump, you could do a quick tap jump, and you could do a press and hold jump. And that is also a way to get 3 different height jumps. But overall, I think this feels pretty good for me, and it'll be interesting to see what you all think for playtesting. I think the next big thing that we're going to be doing probably Saturday night, well, between now and Saturday, because I think the new thing is I'm not waiting, right? I'm not waiting for the next stream to make progress. So depending on how much I get done between now and Friday or Saturday night, we will hopefully be in the middle of the level design and the setting it up of the game modes and all those things for getting all that stuff going. So before I wrap up the actual stream, which I'm going to package up and put on Patreon, did you all have any questions that apply to here? And then I'll hang out for a bit afterwards like we normally do.
Maybe just for later, like the wall grab feature. When you jump down, it automatically grabs the wall. Do you intend to have that like as a default, or do you plan to make a feature where you can choose whether or not you want to go through the tree or whatever?
So that's a really good question, and it is kind of complicated because detecting the overlap. So you're talking specifically if I jump off and then come back on, does it grab or go through?
Like that. Yeah, or even if you're jumping from the sides and just like want to not to grab the wall and just keep running through the level.
Yeah, it's a really cool thing. It's a really good question as it applies to movement mode. So the thing to note is the difference between the tree over there on the right, and I need to make these clear. I cannot jump through this one. This is not passable, right?
Right.
But I can jump through this one. This is meant to be a tree or a rock formation that we can climb. And the trick with making it so you can walk through this while you're on the ground, but grab it when you're in the air, is it's a crazy state machine, effectively. Like trying to figure out how to make it so you can just run through. But if I'm in here and I jump, it'll just grab. Now, if one way to do it is, for example, and just to kind of like, if we come up here, if we get to the top of this, if I drop down, as I drop down, if I'm inside of it, it won't grab.
That's nice.
Right? But if I'm up here, if I drop down and I jump in the middle, still won't grab. So as long as I'm overlapping, once I'm overlapping, I can do whatever I want in here. But if I leave and come out, now it'll grab. So even if I drop down out here and jump, it'll grab. So like this whole thing is a little bit of a trick of a state machine. I understand what you're saying. I'm trying to figure out the keyboard. So the same thing applies here. If I climb this wall and then I drop down, right? I can't grab again. Now, like, I can't grab again until I get away and come back. Right? So now there's ways I can fix that. For example, if I look away from the wall, I have to look away from the wall.
You have to get out of the zone.
I think I have to actually look away from the wall one time.
Is that a character forward thing or is that a collision thing? How do you know you're on a tree?
You know it's a collision thing. So on the character in the viewport, there's this one capsule. This is the climbing detection capsule here.
So it's both, I guess.
So yeah, it's a combination. So that's why if you're facing away from the wall, it won't grab the wall. But when you turn to face back to the wall, it would grab the wall. So it's a good question. I'm sort of on the fence in general. I don't know this specific thing, this tree that you can climb in the middle, I don't know if this is a good thing for gameplay yet. And the reason I say that is as you're running across the level, if there's this thing that you can climb in the middle and it puts you in this other movement state, like if you're in the middle of fighting something and you're jumping around and in the middle of your jump, you know, you're dodging bullets and then all of a sudden you get stuck here, that might feel bad. So part of me, these may be used sparingly and not in moments where combat is happening, for example, maybe. This may just be a helping with traversal or feeling immersed in the world. I built this. I like that I built it. I don't know. I think we are going to have to be careful with whether or not these things are available in combat and to what state. I think it's much clearer when you have like clear grabs and stuff. And if I know if I hit this wall and I'm fighting an enemy, it's super clear, right? So it's a really good question. I keep it here because I want to be able to pull this lever if I want to. There could be a thing. It could be as simple as when you jump up to grab, if you could pass through, you don't stick at the edge, right? In other words, it could be where the trajectory would continue until it goes downward, for example. But I don't know. It's complicated. I don't know. We'll see. It's kind of going to depend on what you all think in the end, I think.
What I could see as a possible solution is just to add another button that you press to switch into climbing mode.
Yeah, I thought about it.
It might be clunky. I don't know. It's something that would deserve to be tried, play tested, and see what feels good.
Yeah. I considered it. You know what? I'm thinking about that, and we're gonna do I think these are all things that we're gonna figure out when we start doing the play tests and stuff. Cool. Anything else?
That was it for me.
Very cool. All right, everybody else, thank you so much for once again the support. Hopefully this adventure is fun to follow along with. This is all what we're doing right now. It's all in prep for our first playtest. I might shoot myself for saying that, but I would like to be able to do that within a month. So I'm hoping to get this movement playtest in y'all's hand within the next month. So we'll see. There's a lot of check boxes I need to check on that schedule, and I'll keep you guys up to date. I'll keep y'all up to date in the devlogs and in the dev streams and everything like that, and everybody who's helping out with answering questions in the community and Discord and everything. Thanks for being an awesome member of the community and helping us out. My name's Kevin. Catch you on the next one. Take it easy. All right, we are clear.